So what I want to do with you, if folks don't know who Kevin Hauschel is, which is probably pretty hard to believe, pretty well spoken in the industry as a whole. Adam and I have decided to take our chats live. We feel as though it's worthy. The people enjoy listening to Turfgrass talk. You're probably talking to or listening to some of the three longest-winded individuals in the turf industry right now. So it would be a challenge for us to keep things, I don't want to say brief, but abbreviated. And yeah, so Adam,
how are you doing?
Are you still reeling in from your hole-in-one on a par 4?
Yeah. Bit special, isn't it, really?
Must be a drought year over there.
Yeah, definitely. But no, it was a big shot. It's a very big shot. So how are you, Kevin?
I'm doing good. We're just about ready to it's about to warm up, actually. As Jason was just saying, we're about to be close to 100 the next couple of days. So the drone and the soil scouts are definitely doing their job right now. Let's put it that way.
We've been at fairly close to record temperatures the last few days here. I'm just trying to see what we are in Old English. But we've been 34 degrees. They get 93.
Yeah.
90 to 93, which for the UK is hot, very, very humid. Not a lot of air. And then all of a sudden, a lot of thunderstorms.
Yeah, we don't get much of those, which is actually probably a good thing because it means more wildfires out here. But yeah, this year's been an interesting year. I mean, we had to irrigate in February, that's unique for us out here. Normally we get rain late into the year. So it's been definitely a trying year in terms of we've had to monitor water for a longer window than we normally have to. So
no, it's sort of having this ability to look at what everybody's doing, having a look at people's data from all around the world and what the soil's doing for them. It's been really interesting for me because I can sort of try and build a bit of a global picture of what's going on everywhere. But you'd be surprised how close everyone's figures are when you're able to shift the season.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys that are in winter right now in the Southern Hemisphere, if you shift them back a season and match it up with where you are now, it's really interesting to sort of just to correlate those figures.
Yeah.
And actually see that some of the decisions we're all making, they're all the same decisions, but they're in a different part of year. So now with the power of Zoom media and things like that, worldwide agronomists can talk on a more frequent level.
Mm-hmm.
And these stressful decisions that they've got to make at the spur of the moment. A colleague of theirs in another part of the world has probably made exactly the same decision 3 or 4 months ago. And so I think we're with technology, different types of technology, we're going to be able to really fine tune everything, even just the power of conversation.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I've seen as of late, and that's kind of what I've kind of tried to do my part in terms of that and kind of pushing the talks forward and not just, especially when it comes to, our experiences with the drone, Greensight drone, and then your guys' product and how we utilize it. I think that's the other big thing was, just being able to, like I just was talking to Erwin about it today. I was able to yesterday. It's interesting, you're flipping between the NDVI and the thermal, and you can actually see most of our like the rest of the golf course is really healthy. The only spots that are stressed, they match up almost perfectly with our thermal imaging. So it's showing how, it's actual what stress it really is that's causing the issue on the golf course, which is not unsurprising to me. Obviously, we were 90 something degrees with cool season grass, so it's going to be more stress. But it's just nice to be able to. This morning, I was able to, show that to my irrigator, and he went and hit those areas before we hit the heat of the day. So we're actually able to get some more recovery before we hit 98 again, or 95. So it's been great to be able to stay ahead. And the other thing is Jason, I don't even think I've told Jason this, but we've been without our weather station for the last about month, sadly. And so in correlation with the soil scouts and the drone, we've actually been able to, and we can keep weather with the ET. We're guessing as much as we can. We obviously can't factor in wind per se, but without a weather station, but we're able to at least get us around an ET and then use the drone and the soil scouts to actually determine whether we're getting too wet or we need to back off a little, or et cetera.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's been great. We're still hitting our efficiency numbers, which is great, without a weather station, which that says something to to what we're doing, I guess. But what I've found is this technology keeps saving my butt in more ways than one, which has been great. So you never expect to not have your weather station down, which is almost the brain for our central computer. If we don't have it collecting that data day in and day out, it causes problems. So especially
you're in a unique position, really, where because of the way you think on data, it's sort of one of the things I tell to people with any new form of data is really year one, pretty much ignore it.
Correct. Yep.
And just build a pattern. Year two, you've had a chance to see what it's doing, match it up with what's really happening in the world and in your own climate. And then all of a sudden, those numbers actually mean something to you because you've been able to translate them. And then with having drone imagery, undersoil data from your soil scout sensors, and then having a management dashboard as well to hold all that information and pull it together with your management practices. But sort of the position you're coming into now, you're able to put all those practices together. So, and then via media like this, we can pass that message on. But it's part of my sales pitch. I really say these tools are arse covering. And that's what they are. No, we're not trying to change the world. We're not trying to make you guys do your job any differently. We're just trying to help you cover your arse with some of the decisions you have to make.
Yeah, correct. That's what I would say is it allows us to be more, by and large, especially most of us are reactionary, especially if you have a smaller crew. I'm fortunate to be at the club I'm at and have the resources I have. But this has only made us that more efficient with our labor, et cetera. And that's and the way I see it is we all have kind of a responsibility as superintendents to do what's best for the property, environmentally, sustainability wise, et cetera. And so for me, it's, my job to make sure that we're using our fertilizer the way we're supposed to. We're using our water the way we're supposed to, and to being as efficient with that as possible while creating a product that my members are satisfied with. And so for me, it's what I found was, before we, had all this technology, we would go in these constant waves per se. You get in these where we're dry, we're wet, we're dry, we're wet. And I know every superintendent has been in those situations. And what this has done is it's allowed us to kind of just keep everything more, the kitchen sink's full, but it's not overflowing or underflowing, which then has allowed us to actually not have as much disease in turn. We're blessed in California to have really just not, great weather for not having disease. We don't have much disease pressure. And so it's really allowed me to back off on my fungicides. It's allowed me to, really just focus on plant health and making sure that the golf course is healthy and we're able to fight off stuff. And, like I was just telling Sean today, I haven't applied a fungicide in 3 months. So for me, that's something, we budget for 2 sprays a month. Now, obviously, I'm going to wait until I see a little anthracnose or something before I spray, but we've just been really focusing on monitoring water, and then making sure that we're doing everything on our end to keep fertility where it needs to be so the plant isn't stressed.
From an ecological point of view, that's just a win-win everywhere. Because if you're keeping monitoring everything else, keeping that plant as healthy as you can, it's going to withstand the fight from a lot of these diseases, especially the diseases that are coming in a little bit lighter to start with. Sort of a touch of anthracnose coming in, it'll hold that off initially, and maybe come in a little bit later. And anything we can do to reduce our pesticide usage has got to be a good thing. Anyway, from ecologically and financially.
Yeah, I think it's a yin and not. They're all they kind of work around each other, if that makes sense. I mean, basically, if you have too much water and you're over fertilizing, you're going to invite disease. If you're on the other end of the scale, if you're doing that same thing and you're under fertilizing and underwatering, you're going to invite disease as well. And that's just because the stressed plant is going to be more susceptible to a pathogen. And so that's kind of been our motto, is if we're able to be more preventative with, finding out what the plant stress is and then reacting to that, and that's what this technology has allowed me to do, is now I'm able to decipher, is that on the NDVI, is that because it's compaction stress, or is that because it needs fertilizer, or is that because it needs water? And so to be able to decipher between the three different things is really good, because in years past what you would do is, we're going to pour, let's go get a pound of N on that, let's go aerify and put seed on it, and then let's go out and water it, and so so now you're using three different things to try to cure a problem, when really all it needed was one thing. Maybe it just needed to be aerified, or maybe it just needed some fertilizer. And so, or maybe it just needed a little bit more water. It just needed some hand watering. And so that's what we've, kind of been able to do, is, make sure that we're utilizing and putting stuff out. And in return, we don't have huge flushes of growth. We don't have, because we're allowing the soil and the land to work for us per se. And so it's been game changing for us in terms of that, is, where our property is, and we have a responsibility. Our drinking water is just on the other side of we have a levee. And so, if I don't do what I can to make sure that we're using as little pesticides, as little fertilizer, as little water as possible, just from a PR standpoint, it's important for our property to do everything to the highest regard in terms of environmental and sustainability. And that's where I think we've really done a really good job, is by adding this technology, and we just continue to get better and better and better. And it's giving us data that actually I can go out to the county or other people that try to, say that we're not, golf courses are bad. Well, the reality is this is more data that shows you. A lot of people, when I talk to them, they go, I can't believe that you're doing that. Like, is that even, And so it's one of those things. It's, we don't like to toot our own horn, but it's definitely something I think guys in the industry need to hear. It's the future of kind of how we manage turf. And I think, in a day and age when labor is going to become an issue, having sensors like this in the ground that can last up to 20 years, and then having a drone service that allows you to fly daily and see trends from year to year to year. This is just game changing in terms of how we're going to be able to model our program and kind of even get more efficient, which that's exciting for me.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's so. Have you had any staff furloughed and any staff laid off through the COVID period?
We're probably as fortunate as you get. Our club is in a very good spot, and we're actually, the golf course is the busiest it's been. We're on pace to do 50,000 rounds this year for a private club, which is pretty impressive.
Right.
And so the golf course is hanging on, but I mean, it's, because of the drone, all the carts are really taking a beating, to be quite honest. It's single riders are not great for the golf course.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So
this is the quietest I've ever heard Jason said it.
Well, I'm just taking it all in. I just like, you guys are so both good looking and so well spoken. I was just like really, I couldn't really get a word in edgewise. That's what I said. Both of us or all three of us are just so heavy winded that how does anyone even talk to us? I mean, Kevin's a salesman. He doesn't even work in sales. Kevin, I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
I know wedding agents are a big part of your program.
Yeah.
And wedding agents for me were also a huge part of my program. And I didn't really, I think, respect wedding agents for what they were or what they were capable of doing. And I don't obviously, I'm not here to put anyone on the spot or companies in particular. I don't want to say, cross comparison and get all, political. But just wedding agent in general, like, what's your program like? Are you like, hey, every 21 days we're out there, we're putting something down, or, what do things look like?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work, just because we kind of pride ourselves on trying to be as efficient with our water as possible. We've done we do every single year, we go through our system and basically make sure everything in the field matches up within the central control. The angle, everything. I mean, the whole thing, the whole setup is our gallons per minute. Everything's got to be set up perfect to what we have in the field. And then basically what we're able to do is I use because our irrigation system is dialed in terms of that, we're able to actually really get a good application through our wet well. And so we're doing large Magnum pellet application through our wet well. And we get really good results with it, to be honest. I happen to use Pervade Retain and a blend of those two. I out here I use like 2 Retain pellets to 6 Pervade. So we're just basically, and what I've liked is being able to actually see when a wedding agent's working. With the soil scouts, I can actually see my moisture levels increase when we put the retainer out. I can actually, normally I'll get right before our wedding agent application, I'll actually be able to see our numbers aren't as uniform across the property. And it's pretty eye-opening. Like I'll have one fairway that's 20%, at the 3-inch mark. And then I'll have another one at 37. And then I'll have another one at 32, another one at, whatever, 25. And so when I start seeing them not be as, uniform, that's when I know that we're running out. Our surface, tension is getting greater and we need to actually get something out there.
Right.
And so that's what I would say is it's really helped with the timing of stuff as well. Being able to really understand when your wedding agent is starting to wear off. And, it's ironic. The moment I start seeing it on the Soil Scout, I start seeing localized dry spot on the fairways. It's not, or I start seeing my POA patches start, checking out or getting sunken down. And so it's, and that's where I think we're able to improve even more is now I'm going to be able now after the first year, this is our first year using the Soil Scouts. And I think what we're going to be able to do next year is be able to understand and actually time these wedding agent applications off of our Soil Scouts, to be honest. And so I think that we'll be able to keep a more uniform kind of wetness in the profile, which in turn creates just more balance, more, and is greater, for better health of the soil, the plant, et cetera. So.
Yeah, I think that the brilliance about how you manage turf is as crazy it seems to some, it's very data driven. And I really feel like there's a lot of credibility in that. You're not just using these products for fun. You're not using these technologies for fun. You're really applying them to be a steward. And I think that's, the best part about it. Wedding agents, I think, some guys are like, I don't really care. So I don't really see a need. I'm just going to go out there and water when I need to, or water because I know I have to. And what we've seen at GreenSight in the drones, applying wedding agents or certain chemistries, you can, if you're understanding enough on near infrared imagery, or you're understanding enough on, Adam and I are in the business of trends. So if you're trending in a good atmosphere, you're trending in a good arena, then you're gonna end up with good results. And so I guess another question, right? So oftentimes people say, well, what's the ROI? What's the ROI on these types of things, these types of technologies? And I think that I got to ask you, how much more time has this put back in your pocket?
Oh, it's huge. So, the way I look at it is I look at my return on investment a little different than some people do. And I've had this conversation with Jason before. But basically, we're looking at it when I first started here 6 years ago. Basically, we had 4 full-time irrigators all summer long. Those guys, that's all they did for full 8 hours was they would sit there and basically they would go out with their TDRs, check and then hand water. And so we were able to get through about 6 fairways a day with that system. And so what I was able to do is I added in, I just felt like we weren't being very efficient. By the time you get to through the golf course again, you're going back, and then those things are all, you're just kind of chasing your tail continually. And so I got tired of it. And so basically that was when I happened to find GreenSight. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to convince my board. I said, well, we'll save the water in the first year. I'll pay for it in the first year. That took a little bit of confidence in my part, but it worked out in our favor. And I would say, what we were able to do was at that first year, after that first year, my second year, I was able to pull off 2 full irrigators off of the irrigation crew. And so to be able to do that and move that labor back into the golf course, you're looking at about $60,000 in labor that's getting back to the property. In terms of we're not hand watering anymore. Now we're doing detail work, which our members are going to be ecstatic about, being able to edge bunkers more, being able to put more time into sand service, being able to make sure that, the clubhouse landscape is dialed in, and making sure that all the weed eating is done across the property. Or for us, we put a lot of that labor into our naturalized areas to try to get the playability where we wanted it. And so I think it's just been one thing after another. We've been able to move labor here, then move it there. And so for me, and then I haven't even gotten into the chemicals. And that's the other thing is like I said, we haven't this is the first time I put a fungicide out in 3 months, I think today. And it's purely just because we're going to aerify next week and we have extremely hot temperatures. So
what'd you use?
Tartan Stress Guard.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Tartan's great chemistry. So I think it's obvious. It's obvious that you're moving it from here to here. You're not just saying, hey, I'm putting time back in my pocket, or I'm saving here and moving it over. I'm redistributing is really, what you're saying. And that takes a fine style of management. I get asked the question all the time. So if I'm going to use this, how much time should I expect to have to dedicate or commit to learning these technologies? Because it's a learning curve. It's understandably so. I mean, you can't expect to fly a drone or pop some sensors into your ground and see things and see trends and move resources even by the next quarter. Sometimes it might take a whole year.
It's not so much. It's not necessarily just the time you're saving, because part of the art of becoming better or using this data more efficiently is reprioritizing. Well, before we've had this, we've all constantly wanted to reprioritize what we do. Every day you go into work, Kevin, it's a different day, and sometimes you just don't know what you're going to come up against. You might go out on a morning round, having a ride around, see what's going on. Something's changed, something's a bit unexpected. Well, that decision to completely change what you were going to do that day, you'd already got your plan of what you wanted everybody to be doing that day. Something's changed. you've got to reprioritize everybody, because one thing knocks onto the next, to the next, to the next. And so now you're sort of, obviously from what you're saying, it's sort of that reprioritization's got a lot simpler, because you can move that manpower straight onto something else because you know what's happening already. Some of the shocks that you come up with on a daily basis, you might not necessarily have seen it, but you've got a pre-warner of it, so you can just nip and have a quick look before you make the decision. Mm-hmm. But those reprioritization decisions, they're not a 5-minute decision. They're back to the shop, sit down, have a look what everyone's doing. Well, if you've done that before you on your drive into work in the morning because you've seen the data, well, I think that for me is the big grace with it.
Which and that's what I would say is like how I utilize it. And this is, I'm sure Jason's got other customers that utilize it differently, but for me, it's fine. We take the flight at noon every day this time of year, and basically we'll get that information by 2:30. Download it into the portal. Well, I'm able to actually, by that next morning, we're able to make adjustments that night if there's something that really requires some extra water. But then we're also able to, that next morning, it's preparing me for that next day. So my irrigators, then I have a plan for them the minute they walk in. They show them, they look at the imagery and they're going, they have basically a set schedule. They know, okay, I need to go hit this fairway, in this spot, this head, this. And that's where I think we're not wasting time, is basically they're going exactly to this head, exactly to the spot that we need to get right away. Yeah. And that's, and everybody knows this is if you have something that's stressed in the morning in California, when it's 98, if it's stressed and, at like 15% moisture right at the morning, you're going to have dead grass by the end of the day. It's not, it's not going to come back. It's gone. And so that's kind of what we've been able to do, is having cool season turf in such a really arid climate. To be honest, it's, really it's Bermuda grass country. We're trying to do whatever we can to, and I'm doing research with that, trying to find a cool tolerant Bermuda grass, and we're getting close, but that's ultimately what this climate wants to be in. So, once again, we're trying to force a plant or plants into an environment that they don't want to be in, which is the theme in the U.S. for some reason. I don't know why. Over in the UK, they seem to figure it out that you need to put whatever grows there really well, you want to keep. And so, it's just been eye-opening for us to, be able to look at all that data and kind of decipher and go, okay, well, our priorities for today are going to be this fairway, this fairway, this fairway. And the reason being is because the imagery tells me so. And so that's the difference, is it's not just, I saw this. And so you're kind of chase your tail. Like, we're going to go get this one, but then there's a spot over here that was a higher priority. Well, being able to direct my guys exactly to the priority spots is allowing us to put the water exactly where we need it, the extra water, and then make sure that they're actually utilizing their time to the fullest, and they're not just poking. How many times during that day before, when we were doing it with 6 fairways a day, how many times did we just poke an area that didn't need to be TDR? To be quite honest, it's just a waste of time. And so how much of that ground truthing there, we do that 3 times a week, where I send my guys out, we still ground truth. That's the other thing, is I have soil scouts and that's gives me the day, but I'm still making, shutting heads off every 3 days or every 2 days. We do one every 2 days, pretty much, an irrigation audit. Like my guys are going to go out today, they'll take their TDRs out, with their iPads, they'll go punch all the numbers, and then basically we'll be able to get that information. And then they'll give me a list of heads that, hey, this head's 15%, this is 20, this is 40, and so we'll back everything down. And so that's that continual adjustment, if that makes sense. And so I think it's ingrained in what we do. That's the other thing, is I think adding these technologies basically made it so that what we were doing just had even more teeth, per se. Like, we were able to take it to another level. we always monitor our water well, but this is to a different level. Like we are hitting numbers that we never thought we'd be able to in efficiencies. So
let's change the direction a little bit with from the agronomical aspect. Having all this data, having all this technology on board in a club like yours in California, what's the members aspect of it? The members, they're the guys that are spending the money. They're the guys that are bringing the money into the club to drive your budgets. So what's their opinion on having the drone above? What do they know? What do the members know about what they're gaining from the drone? What do the members know that you're gaining from soil sensors? And what's their feeling?
Yeah, so at first it was kind of like, what's this thing flying over my head buzzing? We got just a ton of inquiries, I would say. They weren't bad, anything like that, but the biggest thing now is our members, they attribute all the changes that we've made to the drone. It's kind of funny, but that's kind of how it works. And what they've really started to embrace is I've been able to really, I think it's through education. We started at the green committee level, and now the board is really on board now, and it's something that they continue to pass down. But they were able to actually, in fact, this year they're putting it in place. We're actually getting a technology budget, if that makes sense. So they're actually putting a capital budget in place to make sure that if I see something at the show or during the year that, or I want to add more soil scouts each year, I'm able to have about $15,000 to $20,000 a year that we're able to invest in technology. Now, if we use it, we use it. If we don't, we don't. But the reality is it's created that, drive for them not drive, I would say. Now they really understand the importance of investing in technology and to upgrading the property to that point where we're able to make data driven, but a lot of my members, they're business owners, and so they understand they're data driven in what they do as well. It's more. And so I think that's where I'm just trying to show them, hey, this is much like anything you have in your end. This is just something to guide us to make the right decision.
And what do you think, Jason? Because you've seen both sides of it now. You've been the superintendent, so you've been the hunter and the fox, so to speak. Well, it's sort of the relationship globally between committees and boards and superintendents and directors of agronomy isn't always the greatest on a decision basis. They're always fighting each other a little bit, rightly or wrongly.
I think, I know for a fact that communication is king. I had a conversation with my next in line, I guess you could say, at the golf course that I used to manage. And he's a friend of mine. He's managing now. And he called me up to vent. Hey, have you dealt with so-and-so, or have you dealt with so-and-so? How do you deal with this? And, he was just asking me, like, I haven't been there in 6 years. Maybe 5 years. I said, you need to communicate. You need to be able to say, hey, this is happening because of this. And if you're not out front, then not bad things are going to happen, but you can't assume, so if you're willing to say, hey, thank you for letting me use this technology. Thank you for letting me do this with this machine. Thank you for letting me do that. Or, hey, I need to do this because, then you're setting yourself up for success. If you're expecting your board, you're expecting your committee members, you're expecting your owners or your general manager to know those things. That's what we get paid for. That's what Kevin, you get paid for. That's what any superintendent that listens into this call here, that's what you get paid to do. And, one of my old mentors, left me with a brilliant line. 10% of what we do is grass. The rest of it is like stuff you don't get trained or taught in school or trained and taught unless you're in the actual, real workforce. And so, that's, I know probably sets in a little heavy for some because most of us just want to go out and manage grass. It's, I think, similar in our world of sales, that 10% of what we actually get to do is talk to people as much as we want to talk to people all the time. This is fun. This is fun. So how do we turn this into more activity in the industry? Because right now we've only grazed a very small percentage of what's actually out there. So,
well, I think a lot of that has to do with just in general, it's changing the way that we kind of think as a industry. We've been reactionary for a very long time. And so when you start changing the approach to being more proactive or trying to head things off or trying to understand why something is happening versus just throwing more fertilizer or a fungicide or a chemical, herbicide at it, it's really us just trying to do whatever we need to do in terms of making sure that we're actually trying to understand what's going on across our property. Whatever tool you're using to, better understand. I personally think that what we're able to do with the drone and with everything else is game changing in terms for our property. We've been able to really, make sure that we're doing what's right for the environment while also making sure what we're doing is right for the club in terms of we're using their money to the fullest extent. We're not over applying fertilizers that aren't necessary. We're not over applying chemicals that are unnecessary. So if I save, $5 to 10 grand in chemicals, well, next year I'm not going to buy that $5 to 10 grand in chemicals. I'm going to put that towards something else that we've wanted to do or improve the program. And I think that's what we're always constantly trying to do. Sean and I sit down at the end of the day or at the end of the year, and we'll literally sit there and go, what worked and what didn't work, and why didn't it work, and and what do we need to do to adjust that? And so I think that's been game changing, and for everything that we've been trying to do is just stay ahead of everything, and then we don't have to put out as much product, chemicals, water, etc.
Yeah. And what we could do with is more superintendents like Kevin Hauschel that tell us how much they've got in the technology budget each year, and then we can base our proposals on it before the next season starts.
Well, and I know that this is we originally had planned for 30 minutes, and we're grazing the surface of 45. So I don't want to hold Kevin up because he's got a real job outside of just talking to us. I did want to just kind of end on the note that Kevin has admittedly said most times that he's blessed and fortunate to work at a club that he does and have a budget that he does and membership that is accepting of what he chooses to do for the betterment of the property. And I think most clubs that might listen into this or hear this or chat about it say, well, yeah, I mean, that's good for him. I only wish. But if you can adapt your management style to come alongside with some of these programs and platforms and services that are available, I think the industry as a whole, we're coming full circle now, back to the original points that were being made of stewardship. If you're really a true professional, being a steward of your environment, using the resources that are available, are going to set you up for best success, and not just at your property that you're at now, but I think for properties in the future. I mean, maybe Meadow Club is your lifer. Maybe that's for the rest of your life. Maybe not. But if you really are doing your best possible job to put your best foot forward, then you're going to carry whatever you're doing at Meadow to other facilities. So we could do this for days, maybe hours, not days, and we're going to do this again with Kevin because I think his story is worthy. This is just grazing the surface, if you will. We might dive in a little bit deeper on physical imagery and physical graphic trends on the Soil Scout sensor, and just asking Kevin, hey, what do you spray, and what are the types of things that you deal with employees and management, and a wide variety of topics that we're gonna uncover in the next number of weeks that we continue doing this. And obviously GCSAA just dropped yesterday that GIS is going to be virtual So I'll be interested to see what's to come of that, and how we can, beef that up. I know that Big is also either non-existent or virtual for 2021. So I think it was inevitable. Trade shows are inevitable, that they're pushed by the wayside. But I hope, I'm going to leave this on the feedback. This is the feedback question. I hope that trade shows don't go away because folks say, well, geez, we didn't do it in 2021, so it wasn't really that valuable. And if you had money slated for trade shows, that might mean you have some resources available for technologies on your property. Just kidding. Maybe not. Because let's face it, you had a couple $1,000s, budgeted for that trade show experience. So, get at us on Twitter, get at us on YouTube, get at us on LinkedIn. This is going to be everywhere. It was recorded. It is recorded. And I look forward to all of your feedback, all of your questions. And maybe next week we can tune in with Jared Milner at Meadowbrook and discuss some cold weather turf management. And
hopefully OSHA visit went well. So
I really hope that OSHA just, patted him down, frisked him. His shop was squeaky clean, because that's what Jared is, squeaky clean. And truthfully speaking, though, Kevin, I can't thank you enough. Literally a text message, hey, you free? And you jumped on in a flash. So thank you for doing this today. And Adam, always a pleasure hearing about your hole-in-one experience. Your birthday that you just recently celebrated, and your first ever under par round. So I will talk with you guys very, very soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for the invite again.
No, it's always good to speak to you, Kevin and Jason.
Yeah, likewise.